Church, which is a great new church plant in Marietta, Georgia. And I really wanted David to come and talk from a church perspective, like from a person of faith, looking at this specific thematic of, hey, in the midst of escalating war battles for the sake of our children, we have to test our devotion to determine if we will be our brother or sister's keeper. So, which movie did you pick?
I picked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
All right, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And so, tell me from your perspective, sitting in your seat, like, why do you think God wants us to really wrestle with this year?
Yeah, so when we planted church, we had these values that guided the plant, and one of them is, we call it family of God, and it's mostly rooted back in Proverbs 17:17 that says, a friend loves at all times, but a brother is born for adversity, which really speaks to the question this year. And one of the things that I've worked in churches for a long time, and one of the things that I noticed over the years is that when the Bible talks about the community of God, it speaks in family values, right? Jesus is the Son, God's the Father, we're brothers and sisters. Jesus is even our brother and brings us into the family of God. But most of the time, what you see in churches is friend dynamics. Does that make sense, right? And that we gather around sort of, if we're like-minded, right? If we think alike, talk alike, vote alike, spend money alike, look alike, that's what draws us together. Whereas family values are vastly different than that, at least in my family growing up. Like, I don't think I look like my family because I have to, but other than that, I don't think like them, I don't talk like them, I don't vote like them. But we all always had dinner together, right? No matter what. And what bonded us together was having the same parent, right? Like that was the bottom line. And it's my belief that the church works best when it relates as a family instead of as friends. And so the reason you see so much division in church, and the reason you see such a lack of diversity, I think, in church, is because we relate as friends instead of family, and that's not how God designed it. So, is that good?
Good. Well, tell me about
into the question.
Yeah.
And into the value. Right. So specifically with this question, one of the things that we've discovered is that, like, you are your brother's keeper because that's how your dad taught you to be.
Okay.
Right? And that is who you are. And so when you are tested, right, and when there's a battle, it is not your preferences that determine how you relate to the people around you. It's what your dad taught you. Right, and I picked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Specifically, I love that we already saw Brad Pitt winning, because for me, when he talked about the ethos of Cliff, I don't know how many people have seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I love it. I love Quentin Tarantino. I don't know if you're supposed to say that if you're a pastor, but I really like Quentin Tarantino. And what I loved about the character of Cliff, and what kind of made him so cool, was that he lived his life based on some sort of bigger principle that made other things in it not matter as much, right? There's all these questions about him as a person. There's all these questions about, is he going to survive and is he going to make it and whatever. But there's this higher value that he seems to appeal to. And I think that's what God is saying to the church in this question, is that there's a higher value than even winning the battle. Right? There's a higher value than protecting yourself. There's a higher value than your preferences when it comes and how you're going to decide to relate to each other as the church. And I think I actually have the easiest topic here, because the church is supposed to have a common value.
Right.
And the church is supposed to have a common father. Right? And the church is supposed to have a common brother, Jesus, who's the better older brother in the prodigal story. Right? He's the one who doesn't just wait for his brother to come home. He goes after his brother while his brother is far off, and then brings him back home to the Father, because that's the kind of love the Father taught him to have.
All right.
I'm sorry. I'm going to keep a preacher a microphone.
You know, you're starting to be a preacher on me.
Yeah, sorry.
And the thing I want to keep coming back to is, why now, though? Why do you think we need to hear this now in the church? That's the thing that I'm trying to get to tonight, because when people go home, I don't want them just hear, oh, cool, they talked about this thematic, whatever. I wanted them to wrestle with why in the world do we need to wrestle with this as people of faith?
Yeah, so the reason I think it matters now, I think it's probably always mattered, right? God didn't change his mind about how we're supposed to relate to each other. But I think that for a while it was easy for the church to be divided and just be a bunch of friend groups. Because the stakes weren't so high, or the stakes didn't feel so high. Maybe because the culture didn't feel so divided. Maybe it was divided. I don't know. I probably speak from a place of privilege. But maybe it didn't feel as divided at one point. But now the culture is so divided along these lines of similarity that if the church is supposed to be the light of the world in the city on a hill, there's no way we're going to be that unless we learn this. Right? This is our opportunity to be a city on a hill, to look at each other and say, it's not about any of these other things. There is a better way. We can be Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and we can say, regardless of all these other sort of arguments you want to have underneath this, there is a higher calling. And that's what we're deciding unites us. And I think that that's a light to the world.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I think, when you mentioned Brad Pitt's character, it's really good because he even at the end of the movie, he's celebrating, being fired basically from Leonardo DiCaprio, and his dog's there. It's just like he's a part of that household so much, that I see what you're saying as far as it fundamentally is that sense of we are a family that it actually is.
Can I say one other little thing about that? Yeah. It's why I think I saw The Joker, and I thought it was a fine film, but it's one of the things that I think makes you not pick that movie is that everybody is divided, and kind of what you see in The Joker is it doesn't matter what side you pick if you're picking sides, right? It all falls apart, and it all devolves. And I think for the family of God, they need to know that it's not one side or the other side, right? That there's this higher calling to it. Anyway, sorry, you didn't ask.
I don't want to take us too far away from the Oscars, but to me, I cannot not ask you this hardball question, which is, I feel like there's a lot of people who in the church who were disappointed. I'm going to mix the politics, so I'm doing exactly what you don't do. Talk about religion and politics.
Good, we're friends.
There's a lot of people who are disappointed in the way their fellow brothers voted in 2016, right? And there's a lot of people who don't understand why you didn't vote the way I did, that kind of thing. And we're getting ready to do this again, right? We're getting ready to do this again. And I'm so scared that this is just going to be, like, when I say to remain a we, I'm like, will we remain a we? I'm thinking of the church.
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm scared to death that this is just going to, once and for all, just go, you know what, we're divided because, I can't believe you voted for, and I can't believe you're voting for this, and, and this kind of this. And so that's why I think this is really like, how do we get out of that space? How do we not go to battle?
Yeah, it is a good question. How long do I have?
I don't know. Stephen's supposed to tell me when to set off.
Well, I'll try to be succinct. I think it's a broad question, right? I think that somebody said I'm done. I'm sorry, we're out of time. I think that one of the things that has happened, unfortunately, right? Nietzsche said that if we killed God, we're going to have to replace him with something. And I think in American society, almost more than anything, we've replaced him with politics. Politics is God, politics is salvation. And I think that the church has started to reflect that more than standing as something different than that. And I think just for the church, I'm not speaking to anybody else's category tonight. It's also why, again, I think I have the easiest thing to speak to, is I think just for the churches that's not our God. That's not our defining factor. And if we make the church being a we about our voting records, we've already lost. We've already lost. Even if we vote correctly, we've lost. And so, because I think, I don't know what the answer is to that practically, except that what we say is, I love you because we have the same dad, not because we voted the same.
I think there really is no other way to walk away from what you're saying than the simplicity of that. And it's hard because it's simplistic, it is family.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of the things we're talking about are not just you're voting for this guy, therefore how could you be a Jesus lover? It's more of, how could you agree with lying, or how could you agree, these are fundamental Christian values that I think people are fighting about.
Yeah.
Not that's the way they feel about it,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
It's not a matter of, oh, I just don't like this guy. It's
Yeah.
a matter of, I believe this is not Christian, and I believe this is not Christian, and then we're all of a sudden so disappointed in everything.
Yeah, and I think that again, that was my dinner table growing up, if I'm honest with you. And so I think that's where a lot of this comes from for me. And so I think what happens is we say not that we agree, and not even that I say you can be a Christian and agree with lying. So hear me on that. I'm not saying that or saying you can be a Christian and agree with this or that. What I'm saying is because we're brothers and sisters, let's have the fight. Let's have the fight, and let's not think that that's going to destroy our family, because it's not. We can have the fight, because we still have the same Father, even if we have the fight. And I think that that's a little bit is what's lost in church. It's supposed to be a friend group and not a family group. Friends are ultimately polite in the end, and family doesn't have to be.
Bryan, this is the voice of God.
It's time.
Yes, we have 2 winners that just happened, and then the Oscars are coming back.
Yeah.
So congratulations to Costumes, Little Women, and Andrea Amico predicted that. And can come by for a prize. And then Eric Lawrence predicted Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for production design. So can come by, and the Oscars are returning.
Give it up for Nick